Hello everyone, my name is Jonathan Curtis. Welcome to this video and welcome to a new video series. Today we are talking about linear drumming, and over the course of this series we are going to tie in and work through the entire book Linear Freedom, which is a book I wrote and released earlier in 2017. The book presents my approach to linear drumming, and it presents a complete concept on how you can approach linear drumming. When I started writing the book, well, before I started writing the book actually, I was trying to learn linear drumming myself and was getting frustrated with some of the things that were already available. So I decided to write the book that I wanted to learn from. This is kind of written from a student's perspective, and it addresses the two major frustrations I had. The first of those frustrations was simply the sheer amount of vocabulary to try and learn. If you've ever looked at a book like Four-Way Coordination by Dahlgren and Fine, or some of the Gary Chaffee linear work, they're great books, but there's simply too much material for me to try and do anything useful with. I can't spend my time memorizing hundreds of phrases and then thousands of combinations. I can't do that, and it's not a particularly musical way, at least for me. So the first frustration I tried to tackle was the sheer amount of vocabulary to try and learn. So the first thing that my book does is it drastically shrinks down and focuses on a core set of vocabulary that is very easy to learn, very easy to string together, and very easy to work with. The second frustration I tackled was the lack of concept, the lack of why, right? As I've said, some of the previous books, as good as they are, don't necessarily provide you with a reason why that vocabulary exists, where it came from, how to use it musically. So the second thing my book does is present a very thorough concept on how to use this material, how to tie it together. The ultimate goal is to improvise with this material in any note value, in any time signature, without the need to memorize thousands of combinations. That's what I believe I've done, and that's what this book focuses on. If you just want licks, this book is probably not for you. There are licks in here, but they're with those two goals in mind. With that said, let's get started. Today being video 1, we're going to look at chapter 1. Chapter 1 is the deepest and the longest chapter because it presents the concept. Once the concept has been learned, you can then apply this to all the subsequent chapters. And as a general categorization, each chapter refers to a specific note value and presents a core set of vocabulary for that note value. So there is a chapter on sextuplets which presents the vocabulary in 6 note lengths. That said, once you have learnt the vocabulary and once you have learned the concept, you can take vocabulary from one chapter and apply it to a note value from the other. But we will come to that later. So let's get started. Chapter 1, for those of you with the book, we're on page 10. For those of you without the book, I'll put some prompts on screen. We're looking at the core set of vocabulary for chapter 1. And the way that vocabulary has been found is by applying some restrictions. We're working with 16th notes, so we are only working with 4-note phrases, 1, E, and We are working with single strokes, and we are going to retain that single stroke sticking throughout the entire chapter, throughout the entire book, in fact. So for 1, E, and we're always going to be playing right on the 1, left on the E, right on the and, left on the right, left, 1, E, and It sounds simple, but that is one of the key principles that we're going to use. The second restriction we're going to apply for this chapter is no 2 consecutive bass drum strokes. We only want single bass drum strokes at a time, okay? So we have 4 notes played right, left, and to find our linear phrases, we're going to substitute in a bass drum stroke, and we don't want more than 2 at a time. We don't want 2 or more at a time. There are 6 of these phrases we can find. Bass drum on the 1, bass drum on the E, bass drum on the and, bass drum on the bass drum on the 1 and the and, bass drum on the E and the Okay, these are our 6 basic phrases that cover all the possible positions to place a bass drum without breaking our rules. Single stroke sticking remains the same, no 2 or more consecutive bass drum strokes. There are only 6 of these for the entire chapter, okay? Let's have a quick listen to these. I'm going to take them around the drums, down and back again, and I'm going to move the bass drum along one each time. So I'm feeling this, counting this, 1 E and 2 E and 3 E and 4 E and So those are our 6 phrases. Of course, by limiting yourself to a core set of vocabulary, you are necessarily going to be leaving out some possible vocabulary. So you will notice at the end there, when I was doing the single stroke roll between the kick and the snare, kick, snare, I was playing kick, left, and then I played right, kick, right, kick. Of course, it is entirely possible to switch that sticking around. Kick, right, left, kick. But as soon as you start doing that, you start losing that focus of core set of vocabulary. So one of the compromises I had to make was to get rid of any sticking, any phrase that doesn't tie in with the larger concept, which is built around these single stroke rolls. So for the purposes of this book, for the purposes of the concept, a lot of those phrases have been excluded. But bear with me, because there is a bigger thing in mind that will make it worth it. From a student's perspective, these are the only phrases that you need to work on from a mechanical perspective, because when we move on to the next step, when we start to improvise within a single stroke roll, these are the only 6 ways that you are physically going to be playing. So if you work on these 6 phrases mechanically, you are covering yourself for the entire chapter, right? This is what I'm talking about. I don't want to spend my time working on practicing something like stick control, where I've got pages and pages and pages of phrases to try and learn and memorize. From this starting point, get yourself as familiar as you can, as comfortable as you can mechanically with these 6 basic phrases. So let's take phrase number 2, which is the bass drum in the 2nd position, right, kick, right, left. And let's start to orchestrate this. Previously, up until now, I've been playing everything all on the same drum. Let's split our hands into 2 positions this time. Then we can move our hands across 3 different drums. And that is a nice stage to be at with all 6 of these phrases. Obviously, I'm skipping ahead what may be for some of you quite a bit of work. I don't mean that to sound disparaging, but if you are new to this, it can be quite tricky at first. But that level of orchestration is what we want. You want to be able to freely move your hands around the drums while maintaining whichever of the phrases you're working on. So everything I just played there was that 2nd phrase, right, kick, right, left. But I was moving it, I was orchestrating it. Sometimes the hands are all on 1 drum. Sometimes they're spread across 2 drums. Sometimes they're spread across 3 drums. And when you are at the stage that you can freely spread the hands across any 3 drums, you should start combining those. So, once you've worked on all 6 of those phrases, it's time to move on to the next step, which is our first foray into improvisation. I said at the start, our goal is to improvise with this material, okay? To do this, we don't need to memorize countless combinations. The combinations, incidentally, are in the book. So the combinations are, for example, phrase 1 with phrase 2, 1 with 3, 1 with 4, 1 with 5, 1 with 6, 2 with 1, 2 with 3, 2 with 4, etc. There's about 30 of them because I excluded pairing a phrase with itself. They are in the book and they are there for you to practice, but you don't need to memorize those combinations in order to improvise with them, because this is where the concept starts coming into its own. Let's say we are maintaining a single stroke roll in 16th notes. 1 E under, 2 E under, 3 E under, 4 E under. We want to be able to insert, to substitute a bass drum anywhere into that roll at will. And we want to be able to do that without having to consciously think of the combinations we've just practiced. Remember, we practiced those combinations to improve our mechanical ability. Now we're working on the musical ability. And you may be wondering, if I'm not memorizing combinations and I'm not consciously thinking of those phrases I've just practiced, how do I know I'm doing it right? How do I improvise with this material? Remember, we restricted ourselves to the single stroke roll. Now, first of all, this always gives you the correct sticking. As long as you start with the right hand on the 1, right, left, right, left, right, left, right, left, 1 E under, 2 E under, your right hand is always on the 1 and the and, your left hand is always on the E and the That's the first thing. The second thing is, because we're only working with single bass drum strokes at a time, we have this curious thing happen. If I play right, left, right, left, right, then I play a kick, that kick has replaced the left hand, so I resume with the right hand. Right, left, right, left, right, left, right, kick, right, left. It doesn't matter where in the phrase I am. It doesn't matter where in the beat I am. If I play a right hand before the bass drum, I play a right hand again after the bass drum. That's going to maintain our single stroke sticking, and that's going to use one of the mechanical phrases you practiced, either right, kick, right, left, or right, left, right, kick. In either instance, right hand before the bass drum, right hand after the bass drum. Works the same on the left hand, no matter where we play it in the beat. Right, left, right, left, right, left, kick, left, right, kick, left, right, left. All you have to remember, assuming you're counting it as 16th notes, is if you play a right hand before the bass drum, come back in with a right hand. If you play a left hand before the bass drum, come back in with a left hand. Start slow and decide which hand you want to work on first. Move that hand to a floor tom. Let's say you're working on the right hand. Move that right hand to a floor tom before the bass drum. Play the bass drum, then play the floor tom again, then resume your single stroke roll. So very slowly it's going to sound like this. It doesn't matter where in the beat I played that. I couldn't consciously tell you without going back and really thinking about it which phrase I played at any given time. But I know for an absolute certainty I used all three of the right hand phrases. Right kick, right, left, right kick, or right kick, right kick. I only used those three phrases because they are the only possible ones that are available to me. But all I was thinking about at the time, 1 E and 2 E and right kick, right, left, right kick, right, left, right, left. That's all I needed to think about. And I can be sure in the fact that I am using those phrases I've already practiced. We can do the same with the left hand. The left hand is a little bit more tricky because it's on the E's and the U's. But do the same thing. Keep the single stroke roll going. Move the left hand to the high tom before you want to play the bass drum. Play the bass drum, play the subsequent note on the high tom again, and then resume the single stroke roll on the snare. Right, left, kick, left, right, left. When that starts to feel comfortable, combine the two. you can start to improvise with it as much as you like. You will be automatically using all 6 of these phrases if you are doing this. As long as you, at some point, you cover bass drum on the 1, bass drum on the E, bass drum on the and, bass drum on the which you will do, you will automatically be using all 6 of those phrases. But most importantly, you will be improvising in a linear sense without having memorized a single pattern, without having memorized a single combination. Now, subsequent pages in the chapter present various etudes and various studies to get you really working with these basic phrases. But I want to turn now to one of the studies in particular. So for those of you with the book, we are on page 25, accent study number 1. This is an accent study. So for those of you without the book, this study is just a series of rhythms like you would find in Gary Chester's The New Breed or Kim Plainfield's Advanced Concepts or Ted Reed's Syncopation. It's just an accent study. But the idea is you play the accents on the bass drum and you automatically fill in the gaps with your hands. So let's look at bar number 3. For those of you without the book, it looks like this. Here is bar number 3. We've got a crotchet, or we've got a quarter note, then we've got a rest and a dotted 8th note, quarter note, rest, 8th note. If we're counting it through, it sounds like this. 1 E and a 2 E and a 3 E and a 4 E and a 1. You may not realize it, at least when you first start, but these 4 beats of the bar, 1 E and a, 2 E and a, 3 E and a, 4 E and a, each correspond to one of the core phrases you have already practiced. So the bass drum on the 1 is going to be phrase number 1. Bass drum on the E is going to be phrase number 2. Bass drum on the and is phrase number 3. But we're not thinking about that. We're retaining our single stroke sticking and we are reading it as an accent pattern, playing the bass drum where it falls and letting our hands do the rest. Don't move to the accent studies until you have really, really internalized the basic phrases. So I will play the accents first on their own, then I will bring in the hands and fill in the gaps. 1 E and a, 2 E and a, 3 E and a, 4 E and a. There I was just taking that same single stroke roll around the drums, and you can see we've got a ready-made linear drum fill. And so on. And there's a whole study here, right? 16 bars of 16th note accents. You play the accents on your bass drum, and you fill in the hands doing the rest. Let's have a look at bars 3, 4, 5, and 6. That's just a 4-bar section from an accent study. There are more of these accent studies in the chapter, and this is just still chapter 1, right? We've not looked at a single chapter beyond here, and already we've got this kind of 16th note linear thing happening. Once you have got this, I have already done a video of this, by the way, so take a look at that on the channel. It's one of the Linear Freedom books, one of the Linear Freedom videos. You can start to orchestrate these phrases, right? So I'm going to play the phrase this time. I'm going to just do accents. I'm just going to do bars 3 and 4. I'll stick them up on the screen, and I'm going to play them in a hi-hat and snare drum position. So it's going to sound like this. Microphone got in the way. This time, I'm going to play it with both hands on the hi-hat, but I'm going to move the snare drum, I'm going to move the right hand down to the snare drum at certain times. And there's some really interesting things you can do with that, right? That you can experiment with with linear grooves, you can experiment with linear fills, but ultimately, you're experimenting with improvising, right? You're improvising with this material straight away. You're keeping a single stroke roll going in this 16th note value rhythm, and you're inserting a bass drum wherever you want to insert it, right? So the rest of the chapter, there's a few more studies, and then that's it. Now, because chapter 1 is the introductory chapter, it covers a few methods on acquiring further vocabulary, a few lessons on orchestration, but essentially from a conceptual point of view, that's it. So I hope that has given you something to think about. Let's just have a quick recap. We found our 6 core phrases by keeping a single stroke roll, retaining the sticking, and inserting a single bass drum at a time with having only a single bass drum at a time, so no 2 or more consecutive bass drum strokes. That gives us 6 phrases. Bass drum on the 1, the E, the and, the the 1 and the and, the E and the Practice all 6 of those phrases from a mechanical perspective until you are comfortable orchestrating all 6 of them around the drums. To combine them, don't think of those phrases. Instead, think of a single stroke roll and ensure that you play the same hand before the bass drum as after the bass drum. So if you play the right hand first, then play a bass drum, play a right hand after. If you play the left hand first, then a bass drum, play a left hand after. As long as you are doing this, you are automatically going to be using those 6 phrases that you have practiced, but you're using it in a musical sense. The purpose of these accent studies is to give you a rhythmic basis to play from. You will find yourself at a point where any 16th note value rhythm that you hear, you're going to be able to play in this linear fashion, right? So you might be in a band practice and suddenly the guitarist and the bass player start playing this clave thing, right? Dun, 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 dun. And that facility is there because you have practiced a wide array of rhythms by working through the accent studies, right? So I'll leave that there for today. I know there's a lot to cover. For those of you with the book, really, I'm just working my way through the chapter. For those of you without the book, I know there's a lot to think about when it's not there in front of you, but I've tried to give you the on-screen prompts. If this feels like something you may be interested in, please do check out the book. It's available from my website. It's on Amazon. It's on eBay. And there is a digital version as well. So get in touch with me if you're interested in the digital version. And stay tuned because lesson 2 will be on chapter 2, which expands this 16th note vocabulary. And then finally on chapter 3, we get on to triplets. So I hope to see you then. Thanks for watching and I'll see you soon. Thanks very much.